a lot of times. Blah, 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 blah. This is Cupcake Kavara again. I am back with what I'm pretty sure is gonna be my last video about E3 2018. Games that I am excited about, curious about. These are really just me getting my thoughts together, bullet pointing ideas or things that the developer has said or done. Since I am not there, I am not a news site. I'm not. I am simply expressing my thoughts, my ideas, and while I may tell you a little bit of history, it's only to help not only myself but you understand where my thought process comes from. I'm doing Cyberpunk 2077. This one I am very excited about, mainly because it's being made by CD Projekt Red. For those of you who do not keep up who that is, they are the people who made The Witcher 3. And they are making this game huge. In fact, it has a bigger team than The Witcher now, as of reports. And we're not sure. There's one thing to say a dialogue tree, but one person who actually had a chance to look at the gameplay and options, which is not available for public use. People can give their impressions, but you cannot find it on net. He described it as more of a dialogue forest. They are doing a lot of work on this, and in fact are making changes to their graphical engine to better support this game. Why is this important? Well, Cyberpunk 2077 is actually based off of a RPG, not in the video game sense of the world. This is pencil and paper RPG named Cyberpunk, and they are working very closely with the guy who wrote this, Mike Pondsmith, considered one of the 3 or 4 founders of the whole cyberpunk idea. Now, cyberpunk came around, short history of that, came about mid-80s or so into like the early 90s. And so it has a lot of that visual aesthetic. And while with the combination of film noir, so it was oftentimes like things like neons and lights and the punk idea on a backdrop of something similar to a film noir. A lot of times it's usually set in a city. Cybernetics are common. Technology is not only everyday, it is, and for some people, it is their life. Not too different from right now. But, you know, those vibrant colors against a dark backdrop is a lot of the aesthetic that comes with this. And he wrote the original book. So what's happening is that he's actually working with them, helping them make sure that they have not only the setting down right, but that they have the feel of the story. I'm pretty confident that they got that, because some people complain that the trailer isn't what they wanted, because frankly they said, quote, it's too light. And basically it's not happening during the day and pollution isn't obscuring the sun. That's not necessarily all that the cyberpunk aesthetic is. So for me, it's kind of narrow-minded. It entered into pre-production as early as like 2013. So they've been working on this for a good long minute, and they're still working on it. Now, one of the problems that one of the people who got to see the gameplay felt was that they're not sure if it's going to be for this generation's hardware, which was kind of, and it's not that our present hardware couldn't handle it. It's more of the fact that could the present hardware do it justice? And that is a viable question. That is a truly viable question. And that's a question that I honestly cannot answer. The developer is going to have to answer that. And they are not giving a release date. There is not one out. There is not even a tentative one. probably because the game's going to be huge. If those of you who've never played physical D&D don't know, source book, they tell you everything about the world. They tell you the major players in that world. They'll even give you major characters in the world. They'll give you what the political climate's like in that world. They'll give you what the civilian climate's like in that world. They will actually tell you if a gang exists in this world. They'll tell you who the leader is. Everything's literally laid out. You have a guidebook when you have basically a RPG physical manual like this. And this is literally the source material they have. And they have the guy who wrote the original source material basically on speed dial as an advisor. So I'm not too terribly worried about them actually making this place a living, breathing world. The only thing that I would be worried about is controls and making sure that it doesn't get too cumbersome. So we already have notification that there are the regular RPG stats. So like intelligence, strength, endurance. But apparently there's also a few other stats that aren't usually found, but such as tech stat and a cool stat. You'll be able to choose between male or female, and you actually get to choose a deciding factor in your background and kind of like your class. But that's kind of fluid in that you can choose one class and then learn things from another class. Now remember, this is all just still in the beginnings and they already know all of this stuff. Your character's name is V, and you will be tasked with various jobs, options, and based on how you do, other jobs and other options will be available. I get the feeling that getting a completionist trophy in this game will take you a very, very long time. There will be character customization. You can choose how your character looks. You can choose just about everything in this game. It's still in Night City, which for those of you who don't know, Night City is the mythical city from this RPG that is set in California, and I believe they called it the Free Area California because with this world, basically mega conglomerates run everything and the working class is oppressed. Some would say that that is not any different than what is happening now. Like the paramedics are all one giant conglomerate. You see all these different languages on the billboards of the trailer, and that's mainly because a lot of those conglomerates are from that area and they've moved in. So you even see one of the major paramilitary ones, Ayakashi. That is one of the major ones. It's already in the promo, and they've already set up the fact that this major conglomerate is going to play a big role. And I think there's like 15 conglomerates total. It's been a minute since I've dealt with anything with the Cyberpunk RPG. So bear with me. The end of the trailer is where things get interesting. There's a lot of codes. At the beginning of the trailer, there was a bunch of codes that were apparently codes for free Witcher downloads. There's no point in trying those now. I am sure they're all gone. At the end, however, more words scroll at the end of the trailer. Those words are answering main questions, such as there will be no microtransactions. There will be free DLC, in much the same vein as Witcher. And it will be DRM free on PC. And they even literally said, what time can I expect this game to come out? There is no release date. It is going to be a first-person shooter. It is not going to be third person. Apparently it's going to be pretty fast. And it's more of like, as everybody's saying, it's like Deus Ex meets Witcher, which is probably pretty accurate, except that there's way more gunfighting. I did not once look at this game and go, oh, it's GTA. It's a cinematic trailer for a game that is obviously going to be, and they have clearly stated, going to be an RPG. Just because a cinematic trailer says it's Cyberpunk and it happens to be during the day and it happens to show a car in it does not mean it's going to be GTA. More things exist in the world than GTA. I don't know, it just feels like that person's never played a video game in their life and they're only picking off the games that they kind of understand. They even have they've already worked with people like professional cosplayers to reproduce the male and female V. I'll put a link to it in the description, it's really cool. One is off on the horizon, probably not until 2020, which means it could easily end up into the new hardware generation, in which case I might just have to get it on PC, because I can upgrade this easier than I can upgrade my actual consoles as quickly. And I would probably just pay for another graphics card, and some extra RAM for the same price of that, and I know that'll come out on PC. So as an ex-D&D player and as someone who really enjoyed playing D&D when I did, I'm looking forward to this. I want to see how well they captured the life that Mr. Pondsmith put in his RPG game. And I think that they should kind of not even bother listening to the naysayers. Since it's 2077, the original RPG book, when it was produced, was originally set in 2013. 2013, which is why they actually showed the premiere at the 2013. They started working together in 2013. But as they made more additions, the time got kind of pushed back. It looks like that this game is supposed to be based about 57 or so years after about the second or third edition of the tabletop RPG books were set. So the social conversation, the social and governmental conflicts that were happening in that RPG are going to be carried into this game. Glam rock style before substance was like the motto at that time. So they actually have pretty good leeway in their character designs and in their technology designs, so long as they're staying true to the cyberpunk aesthetic, which usually does not necessarily. If you look at the 80s, as long as it looked cool, it probably would fly. Didn't matter if colors didn't really match. Now I'm sure they're probably gonna flub a little bit on that because they would like a harmonious look, but I think the punk aesthetic, the neon, we saw the bright colors, and there were actually some cases where in the trailer people were wearing contrasting things, so maybe they might. But it being a supercharged, busy environment with neon everywhere is pretty accurate. And I'm pretty sure that once the sun sets, it'll probably fit into better aesthetic, because more than likely there's going to be dynamic weather and everything as well. So I think the aesthetic that people are worried about will probably be better shown off when that happens. I'm not too terribly worried about that, mainly because it was during the day. They were trying to show you what the city looked like. If they threw you in the dark, as much as it would reek of traditional cyberpunk, it would also reek of the fact that you might be hiding something. But this tells me that you actually have a very clear view of what the world is. Shadows and darkness can hide a multitude of sins when it comes to world building. And that's handy if you don't have the funds. CD Projekt Red does not have that problem. Or those are my thoughts. I really don't have too many concerns about this one, except for whether or not it's going to be on present gen or next gen. Depending on how big it is, we may not see it until next gen. but I doubt it. I think it'll probably be the tail end of this gen. When you choose to purchase a console, you understand that it's about 5 to 8 years that you could probably have it and it be viable. That's just the reality of it. It's one of the reasons why I've decided that it's time for me to go ahead and actually get a PC or build a PC that can handle games of this caliber, because it's easier for me to upgrade this than it is for me to buy a whole new hardware. And with this, I can play many of the Microsoft games, maybe not all of them, but many of the Microsoft games. And with the PS4, I can play the PS4 exclusives. Now I still have a Wii U, but I do not have a Switch yet, which I am still lamenting. Hopefully I'll be able to change that soon. We are nearing the end of this present hardware cycle, and the question now becomes as to what's on the horizon. It depends on how big and how long they plan on spending on this game. Considering they announced the partnership in 2013 and we're in 2017, that's already been 4 years. I'm actually thinking it's probably going to be towards the end of this hardware cycle, unless the game is going to literally be that massive, which it's possible. I mean, there are conglomerates that are in charge of space travel in this RPG. So if they decide to try and do some segments in space, I don't know. Thank you for watching. Thank you for, attending this with me. This conversation, all of these conversations, all of these thoughts, we can continue this in the comments below. I'd be more than happy to we talk about this. I'm curious as to what you guys think about this. What are your concerns? Are you concerned? Do you think it looks awesome? And I will see you lords and ladies later.